engagement.
His mother is described as this masterful social engineer.
Adept at connecting people.
And these pre-party briefings she'd give him and his sisters, practically requiring them to engage with the guests.
It's a very deliberate cultivation of social skills, isn't it?
Absolutely. It really highlights his mother's understanding of the importance of social networking.
And her proactive efforts to ensure her children...
Welcome to Witter. Who Has Time to Read? The podcast that brings deep dives for busy minds. Listen to AI hosts Jane and Dane and get ready to unpack the world's most captivating books in just a fraction of the time. Whether commuting, working out, or just squeezing in a quick break, we deliver key insights, thought-provoking themes, and takeaways you can carry into your day. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Plus, use our links in the description to purchase this book. Your support helps us bring more engaging book discussions to you. Listen and follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Who has time to read? You do, with Witter.
Welcome to Witter, your shortcut to staying well-informed.
We're the folks who dive into those stacks of books so you don't have to.
Think of it as deep dives for busy minds.
Exactly.
Today, we're tackling Source Code by Bill Gates. Our mission to extract the key insights from his formative years, those early themes that shaped him.
And see what lessons might just resonate with you today.
Right.
What's fascinating right off the bat is the book's focus. It deliberately avoids the well-trodden paths. You know, Microsoft's later empire, his philanthropy.
Yeah, we know that stuff.
Instead, it offers this really rare look at the genesis, the very beginnings of, well, a truly influential figure.
Tracing the origins of his passions.
And the development of his core characteristics. It's all about the early days.
Okay, let's unpack this. Gates talks about growing up in the 1970s with what he calls looser parenting.
Yeah, which gave him a good deal of freedom.
And it sounds like this independence, especially his mother, eventually really accepting his, shall we say, unique approach to things. Hard-won acceptance, he calls it.
Was absolutely pivotal. He even mentions this teenage feeling of searching for something interesting and consequential.
That rings true, doesn't it? That urge to find meaning, even when you're still figuring out the map.
Totally.
Absolutely. And it highlights the profound impact of recognizing and nurturing a child's individual needs.
His parents' journey to understand and support his differences.
Even when it wasn't what they initially envisioned.
Right.
Ultimately became a defining force. That search for something interesting and consequential.
Yeah.
While with common human experience, it clearly took root early and with real intensity for him.
And then the dawn of coding. Teenage access to computers in the 70s.
I mean, that's practically science fiction.
Lakeside School providing access to a mainframe computer over a phone line. That's the real spark.
For those of you who weren't around then, a mainframe was huge, powerful.
Centralized.
And they were accessing it remotely, which was just wild.
He mentions this initial crew, Kent, Paul, Rick.
Their intense dedication pouring every spare moment into programming.
Sounds like the birth of a tech rock band, but, trading guitar solos for lines of code.
Exactly.
Precisely. The sheer novelty of this access, you just can't overstate it.
A very niche pursuit back then.
Yeah, and it fostered intense collaboration and this shared sense of discovery among these young guys.
This early deep dive into a completely new technological landscape.
Provided a foundational understanding that would prove absolutely invaluable later on.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, I think.
Go on.
He recounts this incredibly demanding hike in the Olympic Mountains.
Oh, the press expedition trail.
Yeah, even echoing a near-fatal trip from the past. Miserable conditions, heavy snow.
And what does young Bill do?
Retreats into his own head, picturing computer code.
Amazing. Just switches focus entirely.
And then the PDP-8, at Lakeside, the PDP-8 was an early type of what we'd now call a mini-computer.
Right, smaller, more accessible than those mainframes.
Ignites this desire to write in BASIC.
BASIC, yeah. That user-friendly programming language that was just emerging.
Talk about being wired differently.
That anecdote just beautifully illustrates his almost innate connection to the world of computation.
Faced with significant physical discomfort.
His mind instinctively turns to the logical structures of code.
And the PDP-8 being a more personal and direct computing experience.
Likely solidified his vision of the kind of power and potential these machines held.
Family, of course, plays a huge role. His grandmother, Gami,
Oh, yes, Gami.
who was a real master strategist when it came to games always winning.
It fascinated him.
And despite her Christian Science beliefs about age, she never imposed them.
Right, which is pretty telling about the family dynamic.
Instead, her house became this arena for competitive game playing.
Fostering that competitive edge early on.
And then his early traits, excess energy and this constant rocking, which he describes as a metronome for my brain.
You can almost picture it, can't you?
Oh.
Absolutely. Gami's influence seems really significant, instilling this competitive spirit and a fascination with achieving mastery.
The detail about her not imposing her beliefs.
Highlights a family dynamic that valued individual thought.
And those early signs, the excess energy and the rocking, they really paint a picture of a mind that's constantly processing.
And deeply engaged,
Yeah.
A characteristic that undoubtedly fueled his later drive.
We also get glimpses into his parents, his mother, Mary Maxwell,
Ambitious, confident,
with really high expectations, influenced by her own family, the Maxwells, and by Gami.
and his father, aware of what he felt was an intellectual gap with his own father.
Right, wanting a different path.
Fueled by entrepreneurial dreams with his friend Jimmy next door at the castle.
The castle. And their early relationship in student government, it's all these threads weaving together.
The contrast between his paternal and maternal family backgrounds really provides crucial context.
For the values and the expectations that shaped his upbringing.
Exactly. His mother's ambition, coupled with his father's desire for something different, created a really dynamic environment.
Encouraged both high achievement and independent thought.
And their early partnership in student government hints at a foundation of mutual support that would prove vital.
Then his early childhood in this booming America, the move to this brand new neighborhood, View Ridge.
The feeling of potential everywhere.
Wider world events like the Cold War and Hiroshima felt distant, almost abstract in their secure environment.
Yeah, focused inward maybe.
The rapid expansion of the suburbs, the growth of Boeing, the importance of the local playfield and the library.
It paints a picture of a childhood really steeped in post-war optimism and easy access to resources.
That backdrop of American prosperity and rapid technological advancement
Really provided a fertile ground for his burgeoning interests. And you're right, access to places like the public library underscores the critical importance of intellectual stimulation.
the 1962 World's Fair.
Century 21.
All those technological marvels on display. But while some, like his future partner Paul Allen, were immediately captivated by the IBM pavilion.
Young Bill was far more interested in the daredevil water skiers.
And the thrill of the wild mouse ride.
It's a great reminder that even future tech giants have very normal, very kid-like fascinations.
That's such a crucial detail. It really humanizes him.
And reminds us that his path wasn't some preordained, laser-focused trajectory from day one.
His initial interests were broad and included elements of pure fun and spectacle.
Not just purely technical pursuits.
His mother's grand vision for the family, influenced by the Kennedys.
Right, this real focus on achieving success in all areas of life.
Yeah.
Coupled with community involvement.
The contrast with his rule-following sister, Christy.
And his own, shall we say, different approach to early schooling.
Reading independently but finding the classroom slow, those bursts of exuberant energy.
Feeling like he didn't quite fit in.
Even the Cheerio dinners designed to force socialization with ambitious adults.
Oh yeah, those.
And the very structured Christmas mornings, it all paints a picture of a family operating with real intention.
Exactly. His mother's deliberate cultivation of well-roundedness.
And her efforts to expose her children to a network of accomplished individuals likely played a really significant role
In shaping their aspirations and their social skills.
His contrasting experience with formal schooling really highlights his independent learning style.
And his occasional struggle to fit into conventional educational settings.
Even a family road trip to LA back in '63 and his mother's fancy IBM Selectric typewriter.
Technology creeping in even then.
And a little glimpse into Christian Science when his sister Christy broke her arm.
It's these seemingly small details that really bring that era and the family's dynamics to life, don't they?
They absolutely do. These seemingly minor events offer these little windows
Into the technological advancements of the time and the family's approach to health and well-being.
further illustrating the specific context of his early life,
Reading became his default state.
a real escape and a constant source of knowledge.
His grandmother served as this model reader, always supporting his trips to the library.
And then Boy Scouts. something his mother really pushed for social interaction.
Creating this structured environment, almost like a mini boot camp, he says.
And his surprising success in the annual nut sale, selling a whopping 179 pounds.
You can see that early entrepreneurial drive kicking in right there.
No kidding.
Precisely. His voracious reading habit really underscores his innate curiosity and his proactive approach to learning.
And the Boy Scouts experience, while intended for socialization,
Also revealed this early aptitude for sales and a competitive spirit.
really foreshadowing his later business acumen.
And then this growing interest in science, that pivotal moment when math suddenly became easy, even fun.
The appeal of its ironclad certainty.
And this growing confidence in his own intellect, this feeling that the intellectual divide between adults and me had collapsed around the age of 9.
That's a pretty profound realization for a young kid.
It really marks a critical turning point, the discovery of a domain where his mind truly excelled.
The inherent certainty of mathematics likely provided a sense of order and control.
Really fueling his intellectual confidence and perhaps even contributing to his direct and logical style later on.
The library becoming this sanctuary for him.
With Mrs. Caffier actively encouraging his reading.
A supportive figure.
Even a seemingly simple family hangman game that inadvertently reveals his mother's pregnancy.
And then the ensuing family discussion about their dog, Crumpet. Just life unfolding in these small moments.
These personal touches really add a layer of warmth to the narrative.
And highlight the library's really important role as a nurturing environment for his intellectual growth.
His mother described as this unconventional figure.
A real pioneer for women in the workplace, even if she herself might not have used the term feminist.
The clear pride he and his sisters felt in her ability to balance her ambitions with motherhood.
And this structured morning routine at home, all run on mom time.
It really speaks to a strong female influence within the family. Absolutely. Her example as a working woman, really defying those traditional roles, undoubtedly shaped his understanding of ambition.
And that structured home environment likely instilled a sense of discipline and efficiency.
And then this deep dive into a school project on Delaware. Of all places.
Covering everything from history to tourism, biographies, even DuPont.
The sheer thoroughness, the diverse range of interests, it's all evident even at that early stage.
It really demonstrates his inherent drive to explore topics in significant depth.
Going far beyond just the surface level requirements. And the wide range of subjects showcases a really broad intellectual curiosity.
We hear about this rare instance of his father actually losing his temper.
Due to Bill's behavior, yeah.
Leading to the family seeking guidance from a social worker, Dr. Cressy.
And his rather surprising advice, give it up. He's going to win.
Essentially suggesting they ease up and give him more freedom.
That must have marked a pretty significant turning point in their family dynamics.
It really does suggest a pivotal shift.
In how his parents approached his very strong will and his independent nature. It underscores the idea that sometimes allowing space
Can be far more effective than strict attempts at control.
We also get these glimpses into the professional world, visits to his father's law firm.
The clear impression of order and stability it conveyed.
And this observation that the success stories within their family circle revolved around people making things.
Right, rather than, say, sports or entertainment.
And his parents' involvement with influential figures like Governor Dan Evans, it all broadens his understanding of what achievement looks like.
These experiences would have provided him with early exposure to the professional world.
And likely shaped his understanding of different pathways to success, emphasizing tangible creation and community engagement.
His mother is described as this masterful social engineer.
Adept at connecting people.
And these pre-party briefings she'd give him and his sisters, practically requiring them to engage with the guests.
It's a very deliberate cultivation of social skills, isn't it?
Absolutely. It really highlights his mother's understanding of the importance of social networking.
And her proactive efforts to ensure her children develop these crucial skills, even if it wasn't necessarily their natural inclination.
Then comes entering Lakeside Upper School, this predominantly white elite environment. And yet he still felt different, even within that seemingly homogenous setting.
Not immediately finding his niche in extracurricular activities like some of the others.
And then that small, almost throwaway announcement in the school newspaper about the math department getting a computer.
That's the quiet planting of a seed that would change everything.
Exactly. Even within what might seem like a very similar environment, his own sense of being an outsider persisted.
Suggesting a strong internal awareness of his own unique identity.
And you're right, that understated announcement about the computer marks the very quiet beginning of a passion.
That would ultimately alter the course of the world.
Now, the book introduces Kent Evans.
Kent. A really key figure.
Describes his physical characteristics, this fearlessness stemming maybe from early challenges.
And a deep interest in politics. Strong opinions.
There's the anecdote about their tent flooding during a scouting trip.
Marking the beginning of their close friendship.
Hours-long phone conversations, Kent already thinking about his future career.
Very forward-thinking. And they're reading biographies of famous leaders, FDR, MacArthur, Napoleon.
Trying to figure out the paths to significance. Really intense stuff for kids.
Absolutely. Then the first actual contact with computers at Lakeside.
Mr. Stocklin introducing the teletype machine, the concept of time sharing.
Connecting to a computer in California. A huge leap from the mainframes he'd seen at the World's Fair.
And Lakeside's very few rules, philosophy allowing teachers to explore student interests.
That culture seems crucial. The teachers had diverse backgrounds, too.
Then the basic breakthrough. No one initially knew how to use the teletype.
It was a miracle, he calls it, the terminal, time sharing, and BASIC itself coming together.
BASIC being created by Dartmouth professors.
Right. Rudimentary instructions posted near the terminal, a sample program.
He types his first program just adding 2 numbers.
And gets that jolt of electricity from the instantaneous answer. You can feel the excitement.
Then he writes his first original program, tic-tac-toe.
And learns the crucial lesson. The computer is a dumb machine, needing precise instructions.
He loved how it forced me to think, logically.
And that rewarding sense of accomplishment when a program finally worked, that's addictive.
Teaming up, early rivalry. Paul Allen knew about computers but hadn't used one yet.
They're dynamic. Dares and challenges pushing Bill to learn and excel.
Rick Weiland joins in, interested in electronic gadgets, quieter, more cerebral.
So the foursome forms. Paul, Rick, Kent, and Bill. Rivalry and friendship mixed together.
Then Mrs. Rona at the University of Washington's computer lab.
Encouraging his interest, setting up one of Seattle's first time-sharing companies, C-Cubed, using DEC mini-computers.
The C-Cubed experience. Saturdays at the old Buick dealership headquarters.
Rows of teletype terminals. Anticipation. Then intense coding, often late into the night.
The beginning of his focused work style.
That immediate feedback loop of writing and running code. A powerful motivator.
Learning from the experts there, including programmers from MIT like Steve Russell, the creator of Space War.
And dumpster diving for used computer paper to learn from their code.
Resourceful, but the code was almost impenetrable, fueling his desire to understand.
Until Paul breaks the ice with Steve Russell, gaining access to PDP-10 manuals on machine code and the TIO PS-10 operating system. Huge.
Then a summer without computers access becomes off-limits after 8 months.
Kent goes sailing, visits D.C., focus on politics.
Pill continues Boy Scouts, joins Troop 186, fitting in with Seattle's growing outdoor scene.
He mentions failing an earlier 50-mile hike.
Right, but then gets invited on an even more ambitious trip, hiking the life-saving trail on Vancouver Island.
The allure of adventure. Seaplanes, river fording, cliffs, caves.
Perfect timing, really, with the loss of computer access at C-Cubed.
Meanwhile, success on the regional math exam, outscoring most of the high school math team as an 8th grader.
Getting recognition from the senior who won, that must have felt good.
And the duplicate textbook strategy.
Requesting 2 copies of each textbook.
So he could secretly study at home while maintaining his smart aleck facade of not needing to. Classic.
Inspiration from a chemistry teacher, Dr. Morris.
Making chemistry understandable with simple models, focusing on dynamic equilibrium.
And Dr. Morris had diverse interests, like pyrotechnics, captivating students.
Then the end of C-Cubed. Movers packing up.
Paul and Bill coding on the floor until the very last minute. Dedication.
Without computers, he shifts to reading the New Testament, books on Christianity.
Trying to understand his own beliefs. Always questioning, learning.
Vancouver Island Adventures Ferry, hitchhiking on an ice barge, rescuing a dog.
Writing letters from Kent's family boat, playing board games like Stocks and Bonds.
Introducing real-world business concepts.
And their conversations shift more towards computers and making money with their skills.
Influenced by Kent's family history and entrepreneurship, reading business publications.
Kent adopts the businessman look with a large briefcase.
Then the Lakeside scheduling project request from Bob Haig for the school merger.
Which they initially decline. Too complex, no smart solution found yet.
So Kent takes over teaching the intro computer science class, enlisting the Lakeside programming group.
After C-Cube dies, Lakeside contracts with Information Sciences, Inc., ISI, in Portland.
They try hacking free usage, get caught.
But Kent writes to ISI as the Lakeside Programming Group, offering their services.
And they actually get a job, probably thanks to a friendly salesman.
Working for ISI meant learning COBOL, only Rick knew it.
So Rick builds an editor while the others learn COBOL.
He notes the competitiveness and pettiness within the group despite the friendship. The older versus younger dynamic persisted.
But the stakes with ISI were higher. Free computer time.
Bill devises a plan for allocating the free time based on perceived contribution. The payroll program.
But Kent secures access to the UW Computer Science Lab. Multiple terminals. Closer, better amenities.
They start sneaking out at night to work there.
Lab administrators tolerate it until the night before the ISI deadline.
Paul borrows an acoustic coupler, leading to a confrontation with an angry professor and the lab director. Oops.
Then the sleep-deprived bus trip to Portland for the ISI presentation.
Trying to look professional despite being high school kids skipping school, Bill's nervous they'll be dismissed.
Back at Lakeside, the scheduling problems persist despite teachers' efforts.
So Kent and Bill decide to step in and help Mr. Haig.
Kent researches college scheduling programs at the UW library, finds nothing useful.
The book highlights the tight bonds between Lakeside students and teachers like Bob Haig and Bruce Baker.
Bruce Baker took that famous photo of them in the computer room.
Death felt distant then, Vietnam. Assassinations in the news, but few personal losses in their privileged circle.
They finally get the scheduling program working the night before the deadline. Triumph.
No lines at the registrar's office. It worked.
A working prototype, combining their code with Mr. Haig's.
The headmaster offers to pay them to write a fresh version in BASIC.
And Kent immediately sees the potential. Selling the software to other schools. Flyers go out. Lakeside Programming Group.
Meanwhile, Kent gets really into mountaineering. Adopting the lingo, the thrill of overcoming fear.
His parents are happy he's pursuing independent activities, making new friends.
Then the descriptions of Kent's personality. Appreciating silliness, standing up for what's right, pushing limits. Thriving in chaos, intelligent, self-reliant, entrepreneurial.
And then the unthinkable. The tragic climbing accident during a geology field trip.
Kent falls after the snow gives way. Failed rescue attempts.
Just profound shock and grief. Kent's death.
The memorial service, Bill unable to read his prepared thoughts. The shared history, the inside jokes others couldn't grasp.
An immense tragedy, especially for Kent's parents.
And what does Bill do? Immediately calls Paul to work on finishing the class schedule.
Continuing the project is a form of grieving. An immense amount of work left, the school relying on them.
Intensive coding sessions, sleeping on cots at the empty school.
It became a mission built on our shared past with Kent and with each other, a way of coping.
Though these feelings were never explicitly discussed.
He starts spending more time at Paul's house, getting to know his parents. Paul's mother reads extensively.
Their conversations broaden. Sex, drugs, rock and roll Paul, far more knowledgeable.
Paul's admiration for Jimi Hendrix, the epitome of creative genius, "Are you experienced?" becomes a mantra.
Bill signs up for drama class again, finds acting surprisingly freeing.
A way to broaden himself beyond the computer guy label.
Then he proposes taking time off to the headmaster to work at TRW.
The headmaster is supportive. Suggests it could count as independent study.
Bill draws a parallel to the time tunnel sci-fi show, scientists in a control room manipulating tech.
At TRW, he works on a project for the Bonneville Power Administration, controlling electricity flow.
Learning the complexities of balancing supply and demand, baseload power plants, real-world application.
Returns to Lakeside for the final months of senior year, rehearsing for the drama production.
Performs a monologue from James Thurber's The Night the Bed Fell.
Nervously asks Vicky to the prom, the first since the school merger. Humorous struggle to reach her by phone.
Paul urges him to forego Harvard, start a business focused on microprocessors.
But Bill plays devil's advocate, doubts the immediate business sense.
He wants to attend college, test himself against a wider pool of talent.
He notes the significance of Route 128 around Boston as a pre-Silicon Valley tech hub, fueled by MIT projects.
His first visit to Harvard's Aiken Computation Laboratory, seeing the Mark-I-Die protocomputer.
Learns its history, missile trajectories, Manhattan Project, heavy stuff.
Immediately wants access to Harvard's PDP-10 computer in the Aiken lab.
But it's primarily for graduate students under Professor Tom Cheatham.
Cheatham came from the computer industry, government funding background. A programmer at heart, disliked admin tasks.
Bill feels intimidated meeting Cheatham, despite usually wowing adults with his computer knowledge.
He deliberately chooses diverse roommates. Sam Znamer, foreign student, son of Holocaust survivors, and Jim Jenkins, person of color, military brat.
Wants to learn from different backgrounds.
Explores courses, signs up for Applied Mathematics 10, hoping for open exploration.
Finds the daunting Math 55A and 55B sequence in advanced calculus, the warning about intensity, the qualifying exam.
Meets the legendary Math 55 professor, John Mather, extraordinary early achievement.
The rapid attrition rate in Math 55 makes him realize they need to team up.
Befriends Andy Braderman and Jim Sefna, exceptionally talented classmates.
Witnesses an innovative ARPANET experiment, connecting 3 computers, PDP-1, Harvard PDP-10, MIT, for a flight simulator.
Proving 3D graphics and programs could work across the proto-internet. Breakthrough stuff.
Proposes his own ambitious project, a computer baseball game. Gets Cheatham as his sponsor.
Motivated to prove his programming skills, explore graphics and networking.
Becomes immersed in the easygoing culture of the Aiken Lab, working late nights.
His suite with Jim and Andy becomes their clubhouse for math, discussions, trivia.
Initially thrilled by Harvard's intellectual stimulation, the access to experts, enjoys independent study for programming, the Math 55 camaraderie.
But struggles with organic chemistry, gets a C, decides not to continue.
Finally meets his academic advisor late in the spring semester.
Requests credit for the graduate operating systems architecture course he audited, registers for Math 55B and physiological psychology.
His advisor calls him precocious. Bill initially reacts negatively.
His friends agree. He looks it up, realizes it fits the comfort with adults, the brainy kid role.
Starts contemplating the limits of precocity being measured as an adult.
Realizes in the bigger pool of Harvard that people like Andy and Jim are better at math.
There's subtle competition, scorekeeping. His ranking isn't what he hoped.
This forces a reconsideration of his self-identity as the smartest, the best.
Recognizes he's talented in math, but lacks the gift of insight of top mathematicians. He wouldn't be a John Mather.
Considers other paths, business or law, perhaps influenced by implicit parental expectations seen on a trip to New York.
Still uncertain, but subconsciously leaning towards computers.
Friends like Lloyd Trefethen encourage him to focus on computers.
And ongoing calls with Paul keep pushing him in that direction.
Paul is frustrated with his classes at WSU, wants to be working. Encouraged by TRW engineers, considers working at DEC.
They write their first professional resumes, listing computers worked on, major programs, their traffic analysis partnership.
Bill isn't seriously job hunting, just curious. Sends resumes via a recruiter without telling his parents.
Digital Equipment Corporation, DEC, is booming in Massachusetts.
He gets flown to DEC headquarters in the company helicopter for an interview. Sees the historic old mill building.
Describes his last-minute cramming for finals, leading to recurring disturbing dreams.
Enters the housing lottery with his core group, hoping for suites at the co-ed courier house.
Paul's apartment is filled with tech magazines. He's constantly generating venture ideas, mostly around microprocessors.
Building a computer company like DEC, a consumer time-sharing service.
Bill is skeptical about hardware manufacturing risks, competition.
Trafodata's hardware is still struggling. Delicate memory chip coordination, frustrating glitches.
Their partner, Paul Gilbert, is dedicated to fixing it. Bill writes memory test software. The two Pauls diagnose hardware.
Paul Allen moves into subsidized housing, the Gringe, near Bill, after his girlfriend moves back to Seattle. They hang out frequently discussing plans.
Then Paul sees the new Altair microcomputer in a magazine. Huge excitement.
They decide to write a version of BASIC for it, using Harvard's PDP-10 and Paul's simulator.
Intense, almost magical late-night coding sessions. That feedback loop again.
They call MITE, the Altair company, to clarify input-output details.
The engineers, surprised by their detailed questions, suggest they're ahead of the game.
Rapid 6-week coding period for their BASIC interpreter. Paul calls MITE's, arranges a meeting with Ed Roberts, MITE's founder.
Bill does an all-night check of the Intel 8080 manual against Paul's simulator for accuracy before the demo. Crucial.
Saves the program to paper tape, gives it to Paul to take to Albuquerque. High stakes.
Gets confronted by the associate director about his time in the Aiken Lab, the controversy.
Explains openly about the BASIC project with Paul and Monty Davidoff, Paul's trip to Missios. Says others in the lab knew.
His father gets concerned, travels to Boston. His mother is distressed about him potentially being kicked out of Harvard.
But Professor Cheatham defends him to the board, calls it a travesty of justice, noting the project stemmed from Bill's boredom with grad courses.
Bill expresses gratitude for Cheatham's support, regrets not forging a better relationship.
Dives back into coding, developing 8K and 12K extended basic, more features needed for better programs.
Like outlining a novel, 4K, then adding detail, 8K and fullness, 12K.
Notes Rick Weiland coming out as gay in the early 70s, a difficult time. Their group didn't often share deep emotions.
Founding Microsoft, with a hyphen initially, natural division of labor, Paul on tech, Bill on software and business.
Bill oversees contract negotiations with Ed Roberts. Paul dislikes face-to-face negotiation.
Landing the Amites deal involved long-distance calls, a flight. Now need more customers. Business tasks multiply.
Bill sends Paul a firm note proposing a 60-40 ownership split in his favor, based on his business contributions.
Paul agrees.
Dealing with Ed Roberts, who's somewhat dismissive, the kid. Contract signing is delayed. Bill impatiently flies to Seattle.
Post-contract. Traveling in the Blue Goose van, writing articles for the Amites newsletter, their outliers and Amites.
Paul's anecdote. Ed Roberts telling employees to avoid their unshaven, unshowered software area when customers visit.
Bill's father, initially concerned about him dropping out of Harvard, Bill offers to pay his own way.
His father sends a reassuring letter, happy in his own career, touched by Bill's concern. Support.
Bill returns to college life in Boston, but the pull of Microsoft is immediate and strong.
Need customers beyond Amites. Deal-making is protracted. MITs hold worldwide 80/80 basic rights, requiring revenue sharing.
Gradual efforts to become independent, searching for their own office.
Rick takes on the general manager role, but has a change of heart, wants a more balanced life.
Rick blossoms socially in Albuquerque, gets a Corvette with a personalized plate.
Bill gives his parents the impression he's getting organized with his business, but still plans to return to college.
Signs up for courses like British history, graduate economics theory.
Writes a frustrated letter to Paul and Rick after a rare night out partying. Juggling too much. Traffic venture, Lakeside scheduling, Microsoft growth.
Worried about expenses, employee oversight, customer follow-up, contracts, cash flow, Amites royalties. Needs to learn business fundamentals.
They move into their first real headquarters in Albuquerque, 8th floor of Two Park Central Tower.
Microsoft officially incorporates, without the hyphen, in New Mexico around then.
Breakthroughs. Rick contacts Chuck Peddle at Commodore, who's interested in their BASIC.
News that Commodore is building a general-purpose computer based on the 6502 chip.
Then a call from Texas Instruments, interested in their BASIC for their own computer project. Major breakthrough, potential threat to Amites.
But then Rick sends a letter over Christmas break.
Yeah.
He's leaving Microsoft for LA, a social life, another job offer.
Bill feels abandoned. Tense conversation. Rick agrees to stay until March to finish Commodore BASIC.
Rick attends the Consumer Electronics Show, where Commodore debuts the Pete 2001 groundbreaking all-in-one PC.
Bill buys his own Porsche 911, uses driving as an escape, thinking time.
High-speed drives with Chris Larson to a cement plant, learning to operate bulldozers there.
Revisiting the Amites contract negotiation from spring '75, after delivering 4K BASIC, Ed Roberts delayed signing.
Ed insisted on a 10-year worldwide exclusive license for 8080 BASIC.
Bill sought legal help via his father, found Paul Mines. Poole, Tinnen, and Martin drafted the contract, likely their first software license.
Bill made an important inclusion in that contract.
Leads to the arbitration with Amites later. 10 days of hearings. Eddie Curry represents Amites.
Bill represents Microsoft. Key depositions taken. Bill shows up, full Kent fashion, with a massive briefcase of documents.
While this is happening, sends a letter to Apple offering 2 basic licensing options.
Gets a call from Apple President Michael Scott, then a check for half the fee. Helps with salaries, legal costs.
Tandy announces the TRS-80 home computer a surprise hit. Their initial BASIC is limited.
Bill sets up a meeting with Tandy to sell them Microsoft BASIC.
The meeting with John Roach at Tandy HQ, Bill gives a confident sales pitch.
Roach seems resistant, playing hardball. The negotiation begins.
And with that, we've only scratched the surface of the rich tapestry of Bill Gates' early life as detailed in source code.
What becomes clear is that these seemingly small moments, these early influences, family, friends, those pivotal first encounters with technology,
truly laid the foundational code for everything that followed.
What's so striking is how these diverse experiences, from the competitive spirits in games, to the resilience on hikes, to those intense coding sessions,
all contributed to the development of his very unique blend of sharp intellect, relentless drive, and strategic thinking.
It's almost surreal to consider that his friend Kent, with his boundless optimism and forward-thinking nature,
would have been absolutely astounded by the incredible trajectory of their shared passion for programming.
From that teletype machine at Lakeside to the creation of a world-changing company. I mean, just Incredible.
And the foundational importance of his early grasp of mathematics truly provided him with those X-ray specs, as the book beautifully puts it.
Allowing him to see the underlying order and logic in a rapidly evolving world.
His early immersive experiences with coding clearly ignited this deep and enduring love of learning.
And this relentless pursuit of expertise at precisely the moment in history when the digital revolution was just beginning to unfold.
And those consistent family routines, traditions, and the unwavering support he received from his mother, his father, and his grandmother.
They provided the essential stability and encouragement he needed to pursue his unique path. Can't discount that.
And let's not forget the crucial role played by Paul Allen.
Absolutely. Not just as a friend and collaborator, but also as that indispensable goad, constantly challenging him, pushing his thinking, and sparking new ideas.
So, as you navigate your own busy lives, maybe consider this. What early experiences or relationships have significantly shaped the code of your own life?
Yeah, and what X-ray specs have helped you to see the world in a new and insightful way?
And how might those seemingly small passions or skills that you're currently cultivating have the potential to blossom into something far more significant over time?
Lots to think about there.
That's your deep dive for today. Until our next exploration into the minds behind the moments that matter.